Tonight, we're hearing from the bodyguard of boxing champ Bud Crawford.
We broke the news last night at 10 that 3 passengers in the car, including Kasim Shabazz, are suing the city of Omaha after that traffic stop back in September. The lawsuit was filed on the same day the Omaha Police Department gave media an inside look into training requirements that are underway for all officers when they approach a car.
The Omaha Police Department also now requires officers to always ask if there are guns in the car for every traffic stop. First Alert 6's Ron Johnson tonight with the concerns that led Crawford's bodyguard to file the federal lawsuit.
Kasim Shabazz says this lawsuit is about accountability.
It's one of those things, it's something that has to happen.
This comes after a September traffic stop where Shabazz, Terrence, Bud Crawford, and 2 other passengers were ordered out of the car Crawford was driving at gunpoint when police saw a gun inside. Shabazz says they announced they had legal guns in the car when Crawford was pulled over for allegedly driving carelessly. According to OPD, the officer did not hear them. Yesterday, Shabazz and 2 other passengers in the vehicle filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Omaha and more than a dozen officers, including the police chief. Terrence Crawford did not join the suit. While Shabazz sees the new requirement for police as a positive step, he has concerns about the bill's overall impact.
I believe firmly in firearm accountability. I'm not for the LB 77. I'm not in support of that.
Shabazz says he wants to see police held to the same standard as everyone else.
We do all of these things so that we can be law-abiding, so that we can live up to the standard of the law. So then, with that being the criteria, we expect for that same law to protect us when we're wronged.
In Omaha, Ron Johnson, First Alert 6.
Now, the city has released this statement today saying they plan to vigorously defend against this lawsuit. The statement goes on to say they believe the Omaha police officers acted justifiably under the circumstances.